But yeah, what we've been noticing is that the teams who are really pulling ahead, they're not the ones that are, prospecting harder, they're prospecting smarter. So no matter where you're at, to whatever extent that you're currently using your ecosystem to find new pipeline, I think we'll have some exciting stuff for you here today.
Yeah, definitely. And the reality is that a lot of times we use the cold outbound to fill the top of the funnel for that pipeline. But really, our goal today is to challenge you on how you think about what net new really means.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Great. But first of all, who the heck are we? We haven't even introduced ourselves. So my name is Alina Lukes. I am Senior Manager of Customer Education here at Crossbeam, and I'm joined today by the lovely Joy Rudnick as well.
Yeah, nice to be here. I get to work with so many amazing teams here at Crossbeam and excited for us to learn more about pipeline today.
Perfect. Well, good news. We do have a little activity that you can do here, which is this Slido. So I'd love to get your thoughts here. So you can access this by going to the poll. There's a little poll tab on the right-hand side of the workspace right now. So hop over there and submit your answers to see everyone else's results as well. So the question there is, what are your go-to pipeline generation methods? And excited to see what everybody submits here.
And just know it's anonymous, so you can put a word in there and then you're going to be able to see what everyone else is sharing as well.
Amazing. We're getting some
great word cloud.
Yeah, we're already getting some really great stuff. So LinkedIn is a big one. We're seeing lots for LinkedIn, but lots of other things too. Reliable, repeatable outbound consulting partners, signal-based outbound, manual warm intros through partners. We love to see that. Amazing.
Yay, warm intros.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, there's really a wide variety of options here and solid plays too coming through. Everything from the cold outreach to referrals. We have a lot of things that we can do to generate that pipeline. What we're looking at today, though, is really how to bring your partner ecosystem into the pipeline generation strategy, the warm intros, right? So let's get into it.
Okay, sounds great. Okay. All right, so conceptually, what are we here for? What are we going to talk about? We're here to talk about net new leads. And typically so if you're familiar with Crossbeam, we talk a lot about overlaps with Crossbeam. And the overlaps, if you think about your inputs into Crossbeam and your partner's inputs into Crossbeam, those overlaps are where the Venn diagrams intersect, right? Those are your overlaps. Usually that's what we mean when we mean Crossbeam. But net new leads is different because we're actually focusing on what's not overlapping. And so we can see that here, the non-overlapping accounts, which unlocks all kinds of really interesting opportunities for us. So Joy, do you want to show us what this looks like in Crossbeam?
Absolutely. So we've been talking about accounts hiding in your partner ecosystem that you've never seen. Let me just show you where they actually live. I'm going to click into pipeline generation over here in the left nav.
And this is where all those net new accounts show up.
Right. So what's loading here is your full list of partner overlapping accounts. I'll toggle over to net new. So we're just looking at companies your team has never touched.
This is really the exciting part because these aren't recycled leads. Your partners already have relationships with these companies. So you're not going to have to be going in cold here.
Exactly. And that warm signal is what makes the quality difference. At Crossbeam, we have a lot of data on this. Ecosystem leads consistently convert better than traditional cold outreach because they're ecosystem qualified. The partner relationship is doing work before you even make contact. So each row here is a company in your partner's ecosystem. Right in the table, you can see which partner knows them, plus data points like employee size, industry, and country.
Okay. And all that firmographic data and everything, it's pulling from all your partners at once.
Yeah, it's pulling from partners who are actively sharing data with you. So typically your most trusted partners. Let me zero in on a specific example. I'll click filter here and we're going to select Bozala. And just like that, we went from 2 pages of accounts down to 1. You can also add in additional filter layers like company size to make sure you're looking at the exact matches for your ICP.
Cool. Okay. So within a few clicks, you've gone from your entire ecosystem down to this tight list of accounts that are actually worth pursuing right now.
That's exactly the question you're answering. Which accounts from which partners are worth going after? The filters help you get there pretty fast. And then from there, you can take some action. You can export it as a CSV or route it to your team, however it works for you. The enterprise plan allows for you to have webhooks that automatically push that data into your CRM.
Yeah, that's amazing. So no manual stuff has to be involved there.
None. That's really the whole deal.
I love it. Okay. So I think we're ready to see this in action with our guest. Amazing. So joining us today is Joao Jorge, who's the head of growth at WeTransact, where he's been building and scaling their growth motion for nearly 3 years. And Joao is one of our early beta users of net new accounts. And really what his team figured out is one of the more creative uses of this feature that we've seen. And so I think it's going to get a lot of you thinking about differently, maybe about what's possible. So welcome, Joao, and really glad you're here.
Hello, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great. So happy to have you. So Joao, can you quickly just give us a quick picture of, how WeTransact works, who your customers are, that kind of thing?
Yep. So WeTransact is a SaaS platform, and what we do is we help list and sell other SaaS solutions onto the Microsoft Marketplace. So our customers are other SaaS companies. And in the marketplace in general, you can sell in two ways. It's direct or indirect. So when we talk about the indirect, it's leveraging the existing Microsoft resellers, which there's thousands of them worldwide. And one way we thought to help our customers to sell through these resellers on the marketplace was, why don't we try to use Crossbeam? Because that's basically what it was made for, to identify opportunities. And so that's how we started. And when we found these net new accounts, it kind of changed everything for us, because it really unlocked what we were trying to look for.
So can you speak to that a little bit? Can you tell us what problem you were trying to solve before using net new accounts?
So as a feature of our platform, we were using Crossbeam to try to get our customers to go onto Crossbeam to connect with resellers. But our problem really was we had friction, which was we are already onboarding our customers onto WeTransact, and then we're asking them to also onboard onto Crossbeam to share their CRM and their opportunities. And so we just had low adoption in that sense, because all these opportunities were only on Crossbeam. So they would have to go on WeTransact to do their marketplace stuff and then go on to Crossbeam to find these opportunities. So the problem was really just adoption and a little bit of friction. And with net new accounts, like I said, it opened up everything, because, yeah.
Okay, so let me make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. And I want to just sort of say this out loud, because I think it's probably a little different than most people are thinking about Crossbeam or using Crossbeam. So before, you were actually having your customers, who are these ISVs, right? They were joining Crossbeam, and then you were account mapping with them to try to identify opportunities where you could help them sell, but you were limited to only being able to see your opportunity overlaps with theirs. And what you were really hoping to be able to do was figure out, like, how could you work with your reseller partners so you could accelerate these deals for your ISV customers by way of those reseller partners. Did I get that right?
Exactly. So on our Crossbeam ecosystem, we have both our customers and all our resellers that we're, have this connection with. And before net new accounts, like you said, we could only see the individual overlaps we had. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to understand who of our customers' prospects or open opportunities can we connect with resellers, because what we're trying to do is get our customers opportunities with these resellers. And the way to do that is to find the prospects or their open opportunities that they want to sell to. And these resellers are the ones who are going to help them do that. And that was only possible through net new accounts.
It's so interesting. So yeah, so when you saw net new accounts, what made you think, like, this is going to work for us?
Well, first of all, the ability to be able to see our whole ecosystem, opportunity wise. So we now can see all of our customers' opportunities and all our resellers' opportunities. And so what we wanted to do is there a way that we can find our customers' prospects or open opportunities that are also our resellers' existing customers? And what that allows us to do is we can say to the reseller, hey, you have this customer already, and we have our own customer who wants to sell to this account. You already have an existing existing relationship with this account. So I think there could be a link here. And so all we need to do now was get our customers to onboard to Crossbeam once, connect the data that they're comfortable with. And after that, because Crossbeam is doing everything in the background, we can highlight those opportunities once they do come, right? And so our users no longer have to always be logging into Crossbeam and making sure they're on top of that. There, we can surface those opportunities whenever they do get generated or they come about.
Thank you. So can you walk us through what actually happens today from pulling that list all the way through the email?
Yeah, so what we always try to do is how can we minimize friction, right? So already it was huge that, okay, we onboard them onto Crossbeam once. We don't have to, keep asking them to go onto Crossbeam. They can just stay on the platform. And it's like, okay, how can we add another layer to that? And what we really want to do is how can we facilitate the relationship even more? Is there a way we can not only highlight these opportunities, but maybe even send them to a sequencer so that they can already send an email, and that helps them even more so they can take even less steps to get that relationship going. And so today, because of the webhook functionality, and I'm sure you'll probably be talking about that, we can program weekly or bi-weekly pulling of the overlaps that come in, and we can sort them by our customers and then our resellers, identify overlaps of reseller customers to our customers' prospects, and we can highlight whoever has those overlaps that are net new accounts, and we can send them directly to our customers' portal. Hey, you have a new opportunity. By the way, here's a templated email that you're ready to send to get this relationship going, along with some materials that we send to help them get a partner or reselling relationship going. So almost everything is automated for our customers from this simple use case. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. So, once again, sort of working this out aloud here, hopefully for the benefit of everyone. So it sounds like you're still having the ISV, who are your customers, join Crossbeam, but they don't really use Crossbeam. Not so much. They're really just connecting the CRM, and then you're running those net new account lists for both them and for your resellers. And so then that's where this visual basically is coming in. You take each of those lists that we're seeing represented by this Venn diagram, your WeTransact customers lists and your resellers lists, and then you're using the webhook to basically get them out of Crossbeam and analyze the data to figure out the opportunities that you don't know about yet, so you can help the resellers sell in those situations. Is that right?
Exactly right.
Okay, cool. So this is really cool. What do you envision this looking like down the line? What does stage 2 of this look like for you?
So for us, again, it's always how can we facilitate. Our end goal is how can we help our customers sell the most on the Microsoft Marketplace, and so whether that's with resellers or directly, it doesn't matter. And so in our platform, it's how can we make it as easy and intuitive. And so we're already sending them leads as to a list and notification, but I would say adding a layer of personalization to emails, or maybe ranking new overlaps by score, if that makes sense. If there's a lot, maybe seeing, okay, this reseller or there's a big distributor here that we work with and they have a way higher chance of closing. Should we prioritize those instead of just giving them everything at once? It would be something along those lines.
Perfect.
It's exciting to see where you go with stage 2. Hopefully we can learn from you down the road. But I am curious a little bit more about how right now you look at accounts and filter them and define high impact. What's a high impact account look like?
So going back to a little bit of that scoring, so a high impact, so to meet a criteria for us in terms of what actually is an opportunity, it has to be our customers prospect or an open opportunity that overlaps with a reseller who already has that account as a customer, because that's an existing relationship that reseller has, and that's already something that makes it way easier for the reseller to engage with that account. And so that's what we consider the baseline. But then we can add the layer that I was talking about, that scoring, which is how much of a do they have a much higher closing rate, and how many overlaps does that reseller have in general? And if they're what we call a high impact reseller, aka they have a lot of customers really in this ecosystem, we can prioritize those specific accounts.
Yeah, so you're really able to figure out like where your ecosystem is the strongest. That's cool. When a customer, which would be one of your ISVs, right? When they get this list, then why do they care about this?
Well, they care about this because they want to sell, right? And so one way to sell is to get in touch with resellers. But I'm sure many people here know that it's not always the easiest, right? Everything is always super easy. I guess that's why Crossbeam exists, right? To facilitate these things. But it all has to go back to, you have to have that conversation in the beginning. And so the more conversations you have, the easier it is for you to, get in the door. So the problem was, how can we, expose these opportunities? And now for them, well, they care because the more accounts that show up on their dashboard, that means the more emails they can send out, and realistically the more probability that they have of closing some of these accounts, right? So it's really, if they connect to Crossbeam, we're more than likely to expose some accounts that they could sell, or they could have a reseller go ahead and sell for them.
It's amazing how much heavy lifting you're doing to get them up and going. So what do you think has been the hardest part of getting all of this to actually come together to work?
I think technically, I guess there's always a bit of problem with filtering and cleaning out data, right? We're talking about a lot of people's CRMs. Our own CRM can always do some cleaning. So I guess combining everyone's CRMs together, there's always, that's always going to be a tough layer there. But then I think it's also the human point, right? So before this was I'm always going to refer back to the friction we had with getting people to onboard onto Crossbeam, and then use Crossbeam. And still today, even if we surface some of these opportunities, it's like there's still some people who don't take action on that. So I think the human layer in anything we do really product-wise is always going to be a bit trickier. So how can we convey that value and make it even easier for someone? I think that's always going to be the real challenge.
Definitely.
So I'm sure we've got people out here who are not using net new accounts at all yet. So just thinking broadly, like what's the one thing you'd tell someone who's maybe just getting started or just starting to think about using net new accounts?
I would say definitely use it. I know our use case is a bit different because we're combining both our customers and resellers all into one ecosystem. So we're trying to find overlaps in a bit of a different way. But regardless of if this was the use case or not, I think net new accounts opens the floodgates to what's possible on Crossbeam, which is really like finding out who has relationships with who in the ecosystem, and so you can understand trends of who partners with who. Are there specific people who partner with specific people? Do they have big relationships with this person or this person geographically? You can filter a lot of that. And I think whatever the use case is, being able to look at net new accounts, I think it's a huge opportunity for anyone, really.
Yeah, and we love your use case. I think it's really exciting. And I know it's early stages, but we are kind of curious, like, how are you measuring success? Like, what results are you seeing?
Yeah, so first I was seeing, okay, now that we have all this, like what are the real numbers? Because before we weren't able to identify like, okay, we have a lot of resellers and distributors and they can help our customers resell their solution, but we weren't, we couldn't really put a number to what the opportunity was because we weren't able to see the exact overlaps, right? And so we had, I think, about 15 resellers who shared their information on Crossbeam, and I think about the same number of customers who did. And so with that, I think the first time I did it, I had 1,500 overlaps for these customers, right? So that's 1,500 opportunities, emails that these 14 customers could send out right away. And so to me, that was huge because, like I said, we weren't aware of that. And so now the second goal is we're launching V2 with more personalization and focusing really on the emails rather than just surfacing the opportunities. And so now we have to measure how many emails are people actually sending? Are they just adding people to list, or do they actually send the emails? I know one customer who is as we say, always a very good student of ours, does everything always right. They're already able, because of that, to go into 7. They have 7 opportunities already closing to the marketplace. So that's already like huge because that was the first test. So it's definitely working. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think the first impact's been huge, and I'm excited to see where this goes now with more customers sharing their their CRM and opening even more this.
Amazing. Joao, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us and talking about this. I think it is such a compelling and interesting use case for Crossbeam. And I think that it, like you said, it sort of like shows how net new accounts can really expand the boundaries of what you're able to do with Crossbeam before, which is pretty cool. So thank you so much for being here and sharing your experiences today.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And sort of along those same lines, I want to talk a little bit about, like, now that we've heard how Joao has been using it at WeTransact, you've heard this real example. Let's think about how you might actually use net new accounts. So before you go and activate net new accounts, most people are wanting to ask the question, which partners should I actually try to run these plays with? Who would I actually want to see this data? We know that not all partners are equal. And so giving your full prospect list or your full customer list, right, whatever it might be, to the right partners is really important. Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what we're looking at on the screen is from our very own beloved CEO, Bob Moore, from his book, Ecosystem-Led Growth. And the framework is based on a conversation he had with CEO Chris Lavaw of Partnerships Mastermind. And it's really simple. He loves a good 2x2. So we have a 2x2 framework here for thinking about how your partners intersect. So on one axis, we have how much market overlap do you have with them? Are we showing up in front of the same accounts? On the other axis, you can see there's a strong joint value proposition there. Your holy grail partners are in that top right quadrant, and that's your high overlap, your strong joint value proposition, the ones that you want to give that net new account information to. Those are the partners where the warm intro is most likely to convert. So then you also see there's another box here for the uphill battle partners. Those are the big overlaps, but maybe there's a weak joint value proposition there. So that might be more co-marketing, eventually give them that prospect list, but not the key group that you're looking at. So net new accounts in general isn't just about sharing more data. We actually want to be sharing it selectively.
Yeah. And so sort of taking this away from theoretical, Airship actually built a really elegant version of this on the account side. So what they did is they took a short list of their prospects and they scored each one on ICP fit. Then they layered in how much overlap they had with each partner. So basically they were asking, which of my target accounts does this partner already have a relationship with? And then the accounts in the upper right, these were high ICP score and high partner co-sell score, basically like the first calls, right? So that's where your net new accounts are going to be the most powerful in most situations, because you don't just know who to go after. It's which partner can we activate for an intro or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that takeaway really is like net new accounts is the feature, but partner selection is really the strategy. So running your partners through a quick prioritization before you activate, maybe gut checking them against this 2x2 idea, you'll get a lot more out of this than just turning it on and spray and pray.
Yeah. So if we have this new lens on how to generate pipeline, well, so Joy and I are on the customer education team. We're obsessed with actually getting results. And so we don't want you to walk away from this webinar without an actionable next step in mind. So the question that we want you to ask yourself is, what does net new accounts mean for you? What could it mean for you? What is it going to provide you that you wouldn't be able to see before? And what can you do with that? So maybe WeTransact's example really resonated with you and you're like, we could do something similar with our resellers, but how can you sort of open up your own creative process and approach this? So to help guide you with this, here's a quick mental exercise you can do. If you want to even physically do this on a sheet of paper, go right ahead, but draw a line down the middle of a sheet of paper, if on the left column and then on the right column, and this will help you to brainstorm what's possible.
Yeah, and I'm sure while you've been sitting here, you've probably thought of a partner. So go ahead and use one of these examples. You know, if I have access to X partner customers, then we don't have on our radar, then we could co-sell with them for a co-branding integration story. So that if then you can pick one of those and go ahead and write that down, anything that comes to mind. So this really is an actionable takeaway, and I'm just watching the clock, Alina. So we want you probably to do this on your own. We would have done it during the session, but you know, take the time to put this down on paper and really think about how you can make this play work for you.
Yeah, and go ahead and take a screenshot of this if you'd like, so that you can take this and use these examples to help you brainstorm right after this session how you might be able to use this. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about here is basically when they are no longer net new leads, then what? So Joy, can you share a little bit about this?
You know, we do have the video now, Alina. Did you want me to go ahead and do that or just like crash course it?
Oh, sure. We can play the video. Let's do it.
So net new accounts fill the top of your funnel with warm partner source leads. But once those accounts start moving, once they're in your pipeline, which is great, a different question is your focus, and that's which of these open deals can your partner help you close fastest? That's exactly what Deal Navigator is built for, so let's go ahead and take a peek at that. So we'll click on Deal Navigator from the navigation. And what you're seeing here is your open opportunities that have been enriched with partner overlapping data. So we can see here which of your open opportunities have most recently become close deals of your partners. So that's a really good signal, right? These are the ones that you really need to pay attention to right now. But it can be a little overwhelming, right? We have several pages here. So let's go ahead and think about how we could get more granular with this as well. So we'll click the filter option here. And let's assume that we know we have some gold tier partners that we want to focus in on. So I'm going to click partner and select Bazala and Holver. So these accounts are on the move. We want to keep a close eye on them. We know that we can filter this down by these two partners, and that took our list from one page or from 2 pages down to 1 page. And now we can get even more targeted, right? We can catch the deals that are near the finish line. So maybe I want to filter just one more time. Let's see if I can add a stage that we're in. Let's go with negotiation. Let's see what we're working with here. So that took us down even more. So we layered in another filter, and now we really can focus in on these 2 key accounts. I'm going to go ahead and click into one so we can have a little more insight. So the account detail drawer, and we start with the partner tab here, which is telling us exactly which partners do you need to get involved with. The other tab that's really great is the account tab. That lets you know like who's active on this deal, what's actually happening, so you can strengthen your perspective about where you should be looking. I also love the contacts option here. So are you talking to the right people? This might surface some names or some contacts that you weren't aware of. And the activity timeline is super helpful. So you've got that linear view of what's been going on, which touch points, who's been doing what. And that way you just have that full story of what's been happening with the account. So net new accounts finds that pipeline for you, right? Like it's giving you those accounts that you're totally unaware of. And then once they're in the pipeline, that's where Deal Navigator comes into play.
Perfect. All right. So you've taken the first step towards growing your knowledge of what's possible with Crossbeam with net new accounts by joining this webinar. So thank you for being here today. We want to make sure before we close out this session that you know about the resources that are available to you, because we do have a ton of great resources that you might not be taking advantage of yet at Crossbeam. So real quick, we're going to cover those. First, I want to talk about live enablements, which I think a lot of people don't even know we have these, but Joy and I are part of the customer education team. If you're looking for a really easy way to upskill your team without having to do it yourself, you can bring in someone from our team of expert facilitators and we can come in and help make that happen for you. This is something that's really reasonably priced and starting as low as $500, so it's quite cheap, and it goes up from there depending on the complexity of your needs. And what you're getting with that is really like expert facilitation. We know that enablement works, that our team has the specialization to come in and do something really great from you. Our friend at Triumph, Kelly, has this great quote. She said, "This was honestly probably the best corporate tool training that I've ever been a part of." So if this is something that's of interest to you, you're trying to increase adoption, you want to do it in a really low lift way, and you didn't know about this, there's a interest form that you can complete. I think that it's going to probably get dropped in the chat here. It's at least in the resources, the docs there. So you can always fill that out or talk to your ASM as well. And then
of course, we have to talk about our academy. We can't forget our beloved academy here. It's available 24/7. It's free if you have a Crossbeam seat, and you can learn pretty much anything from the basics to more complex strategic side of Crossbeam. Please look under that docs tab and you'll see some specific courses that we're recommending related to today.
Great. All right. Well, we are just a few minutes over, but I wanted to make sure to thank you all for joining us here today. And of course, to thank Joao as well for joining us from WeTransact. It was really great to have him as a guest and to have all of you here today. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Day. Thanks so much, everybody.